Welcome all of you. Hope my screen is visible and my voice is audible to you. Let's continue our discussion on Docker. Yesterday we understood the difference between the hypervisor and the containers, and we have seen that how to create a container. We have seen Jenkins containers. We have installed this Docker in AWS EC2 instance. Today, let's continue the discussion. And somebody, could you please go on mute, please? Yeah, fine. So first thing is, let's try to log into our AWS console, because some people may not be aware of this AWS. So I will show you again how to create EC2 instance roughly. You can blindly follow these steps. I'm just logging as root user. I will go to services, go to compute. In EC2, we have instances section. Click on this, launch instances. And because anyway, I'm going to install Docker in this, and we know that the machine in which we install Docker is called as Docker host. Let's name that as Docker host. In real time, we will be naming that as dev Docker host, prod Docker host, or creator, like that we will be naming, right? So after that, we have to select the AMI. I'm selecting Ubuntu, and more specifically Ubuntu 18.04. Anything you can use, and I'm keeping other things default. And t2.micro is sufficient for us. And this instance type will be based on the workload. How many Docker images you want to create at a time, how many you want to store. Anyway, if we are using just for Docker, t2.micro is also enough in the production as well, because every time we are creating a new Docker image, we will remove the older one. And we are not going to store these images locally in the machine, in the Docker host machine. Instead, we will save all these images into some central server called as container registry, which also we will see going forward. And if you want to create a new key pair, you can create a new key pair and download that. And if you want to use the existing one, we can use that one. Right? So we have used I have Docker classes key pair already downloaded into my machine, so I'm choosing that. And I want to keep the VPC and subnet by default things. Then I want to select the existing security group. These are just open ports. You must be knowing that. And 8 GB storage is sufficient for us. And I don't want to go to the advanced details at all, right? So I will just click on launch instance. With that, an instance will be launched for us. And how to connect it to the remote machine? Different people will be using different clients, and I personally use mobile storm, not myself. Everybody in my team will be using the same. And click on session here. And one thing is, when you install this mobile XStorm, first time go to settings, or here settings, click on this SSH and check this SSH keep alive. Initially, when we install and run this mobile XTOM, it will be unchecked. So if you check this, the session will be kept alive. The session won't be expired. Right? So that is one thing. Just click on OK. Then I just want to go to my EC2 instance, whether it is ready or not. Still the status checks were not completed. Anyway, they will be completed in 1 or 2 minutes. Then go to our instance, go to connect. Why I'm going to go into connect option? Because there we will be having the username and the public IP. Public IP will also be available here itself. But if you want to see the username of that particular machine, you have to go to this connect. Okay, here the username is given. Copy the public IP address, click on session, click on SSH, remote host, copy that particular IP address, check this, specify username and specify the username. Want the username? Ubuntu, just type it. So SSH will be running on port 22. By default, it will be provided here. In case if it is not there here, so please use port 22. Then where do we need to upload the private key? For that, go to advanced SSH settings, check this use private key. This button will be enabled. Click on this and browse for our private key. Then click on OK. So with this, we have connected to the remote machine, which is there in the AWS cloud in Mumbai region. Okay. I have just increased the font size. Then how to install Docker in this? I'm closing the Kubernetes nodes. How to install Docker? You can use the apt package manager also, but I'll use the script first. Login as a root user. Then after that, copy this command. Copy entirely this one. After that, you can execute the script. Otherwise, also you can directly execute the script by providing bash using Python. So with this, whatever the script that is there in this URL will be executed. If you want to go to the particular thing, you can go and see the script, but that's not required for us to understand. So this is the script for installation of the Docker. Now we understood the terms that are related to Docker. Let me quickly go through them. What is Docker image? This is nothing but the application along with its dependencies. What is container? Container is nothing but running instance of a Docker image, or when an image is executed, then that can be called as what? Container. So ultimately, when the container is created, then only the application will be running. Otherwise, image is nothing but it's a file which we store in some container registry remotely. Docker host, we know the machine in which Docker is installed is called as what? Docker host. Docker client is nothing but Docker CLI, which will be installed by default when we install the Docker in our machine. Right? So now it's taking too much of time. Let me duplicate the tab. I'm checking whether Docker is installed. Docker command is not found because this script is not executed. It's facing some issues. Why it is too slow? Let me interrupt this process. I'm trying to execute the same command. Is being installed. So now let me represent that diagrammatically. This is a Docker host machine. We want to run a container. For that, first we have to download the Docker image, which is stored in some registry, and the public registry is Docker Hub, which we have seen yesterday. In these images, which are created and made available to the public, will be stored in the Docker Hub, and those images we have to download into the Docker host machine to run a container from them. To run a container from them, what we do is we will download that image into our Docker host machine, and from that container will be created. Right? So that is fine. Now, what I will do is check. That's when Docker is installed. I want to check the images that are existing in our Docker host machine. For that, Docker image ls is the command. I want to check whether any container is already running in the Docker host machine. For that, we have a command called docker ps. So it is giving details like container ID, image from which that particular container is created, the command that will be executed when the container is started, that you will understand when we are writing the Docker file, the created time, the status, ports, and everything. But here no container is listed. That means there is no container running in that. Now, what I will do is this diagram we will understand later. I will come to that again. First, what I want to do is I want to run a container. For that, the container has to be downloaded. How to do that? For that, we have to use docker pull, and the image name we have to give. And you will get some doubt. How do I know the image name? For Tomcat, there are two different official images. One is Tomcat, another one is just Tommy. For Nginx, we have Nginx image. But how do I know the image name? For that, you have to go to Docker Hub, hub.docker.com. And if something you want to run in a container, you can search for that. For example, you want to run some database, you don't know the exact name of the image, you can give roughly anything. Okay, MySQL image. I'm just giving that. See, different things are given here, and here we have the MySQL or MySQL. This is the Docker official image for MySQL. If you want to know more about this, just click on this, right? Quick reference. Here reference is given. You can open that and you can read about that. Or else here itself, all the things related to that particular Docker image called MySQL is given here. You can understand that from there. Okay, so this is required for database administrators and developers. It's not required for DevOps engineers, right? So this is now what I want to do is I want to run Tomcat in a container. For that, we have to pull the Tomcat image first. Pulling means downloading. I just hit the enter. With that, the Tomcat image will be pulled. And yes, so this is the size. So here, what is this image? This image is nothing but this Tomcat application along with the binaries and libraries that are required for this particular application. All those things are packed and bundled in a file called DOMI that we are calling it as Docker image. How to run this particular Tomcat application? For that, we have to run a container from this image. How to do that? Docker run. I want to run, or you can type Docker container run. Okay, fully we can write this, but even if you don't give container also, that's fine because it's always by default container will be created. If we want to run a container, we need to have the Docker image from which we want to run the container. That Docker image name we have to provide like this. I want to run a container from this image, and mostly image will be coming at the end of the command. If we have any other arguments that we will be writing here, which you will understand going forward. So this is the thing. See how much time it took for us to run Tomcat. Immediately after hitting the enter button, that means immediately after executing the Docker run command, this particular Tomcat application is running. Right? So these are the logs of the Tomcat application. But if the logs are being shown in the console like this, how can I execute other commands? Right? So if you want to run another container, I'm just taking you back to our diagram. Now we have created a container. Container is nothing but what? It's a lightweight virtual machine. And we can run as many containers as we want, as long as there are sufficient system resources like CPU, memory, and storage are available in the particular host machine. The only requirement that we need to have is Docker should be installed, and we can run multiple containers, and you see how quickly the container is filled up. But if we go to this hypervisor technology, just to install and run this application, it will take about 30 to 40 minutes. First, we have to create this virtual machine, and after that, we have to install all the libraries that are required for this particular application A, and we have to run them. It will take minimum 30 minutes, but how quickly we are able to run the same application using container. This is the thing. Now, one container is already running, the Tomcat container. I want to run another container in the same Docker host machine. For that, here I am not able to execute the commands because the Tomcat application logs are being streamed here. So in order to run another container, I need to open another tab for the same machine. And what we have to do is here we have to pull and run another container. Let's pull the Nginx image. That means we are downloading the Nginx image from the public registry, that is Docker host, Docker hub. Going forward, we will create our private registries in the cloud, and we will be using those registries to pull and pull the images. The Nginx image is now downloaded. How to check that? This is earlier we have Tomcat. Now we have Nginx image. So don't be confused with this 2 weeks. You may be getting some doubt that only this Nginx container is just created 2 weeks ago. No, it is just updated 2 weeks ago. It was there for a long time, right? So now if you see the size of this Nginx and Tomcat, the sizes are different, but it seems like Tomcat is heavier than Nginx. That's why its size is larger compared to this Nginx Docker image, right? So now how to run the Nginx container? Docker run, you have to provide the image name. See quickly, the Nginx container is also came into running state. How to access them? That's a different thing that we will see. Now, if I want to run 20 containers, do I need to open 20 tabs? No, that's not required. What we can do is, I just want to apply Control C to exit from this particular container. Control C is applied. So we are now back to the host machine terminal, right? Now I will see the containers that are running. If you see, only Nginx container is running. The container is named as happy both something, some random name will be allocated. We will give our names to this. But what happened to that particular Tomcat container? Because we have applied Control C, that Tomcat container is stopped. How do I know that it is stopped? For that, we have to use Docker ps-a. A stands for all. It will show both running as well as exited containers. Exited means stopped containers, right? So it is stopped, right? Why I have stopped it? Because I want to execute other commands here. So when the Tomcat was running, we are seeing the logs on the console like we are seeing here. But I don't want to do that. I want to execute other commands in the same terminal. Now, what I will do is, I will create another Tomcat container. There is nothing wrong in that. Here, we are creating multiple virtual machines using the same operating system. Let's say Ubuntu here, Ubuntu here, Ubuntu here. In the same way, I can also run the same container, right? And because the image is already downloaded, I can use the same image again, right? So image pulling process is only one-time process. Of course, if you think that image may be updated within that time, you can put that image afresh. But I want to run the Tomcat container. How to do that? Docker run. The Tomcat image name should be given, but this time I want to use -d. See, D is nothing but it is an option or the argument in the command, and we give the image name at the end. This means I want to run the container in detached mode. D stands for detached mode. If I do this, what happened? Are we seeing the logs on the console? No, because the container is running in the background or in the detached mode, we are not able to see the logs on this console. Now our terminal is clean. We can run another command or another container, right? So what I want to do is, now I want to check the containers which are running. Docker ps, then -a. So generally it is better to use -a option always. Now see, these two containers are up, and these are the container IDs. This is container ID of this one, and this one is exited. This is our earlier container, and these are the containers which are running. And here also, this is also Tomcat container. This is also Tomcat container. I want to run another Tomcat container as well. And they will be unique with the IDs. If you see here, what is it? We have 3 Tomcat containers and 1 container is stopped. 2 Tomcat containers are up and another Nginx container is also up. Total, we have created 4 containers. This container is exited. I want to start this. For that, what I will do is, I don't want to start this. You will understand the starting later. It is exited because I have exited because that is no longer useful for me. But still it is there. Never mentioned. So I want to delete that. For that, we have a command called docker rm. This command will be frequently used in the pipeline. Okay, why I will tell you. I want to remove the content. We can remove only the exited or the stopped container. Exited means what? The container is stopped. Which container we want to remove? Let's try to remove this container with this ID. This is the container ID, friends, and this is the container name, and we are using this. I just want to remove this container and see the output. Error response from Docker daemon. You cannot remove a running container. What it is saying? You cannot remove a running container. Then let's try to remove that. This is a running container. Let's try to remove the exited container. Docker rm. What's the exited container ID? This one. Now see that command. See what happened. That exited container is now removed. Only the containers which are running are there. Now I want to shut down one more container which is running, right? But if the container is running, we can't remove it. First, we have to stop the container, and after that, we have to remove it. How to stop the container? Docker stop. The container name of the container ID can be given. I want to stop this Nginx. What happened? That has been stopped. When it is stopped, only the container ID will be given as the output once it is succeeded. Now I want to execute the -a. See what happened? This Nginx container is stopped now. Now we can remove Docker rm. But what if I want to start it? I have stopped it. What if I want to start it? Docker start. What's the container that you want to start? this one. We can do that. The status will be, the output will be the container ID itself. Now let's execute docker ps-a. If you see, this nginx is now up 11 seconds ago. That is fine. What if I want to restart a container? For that, docker restart. All these commands will be used when we are troubleshooting. In general pipeline, we won't be using all these commands, but when we want to deal with a single container, we will be doing this for sure. So these commands are very important. Now the container is restarted. That means it will be about 24 seconds ago. It is restarted, right? Now I want to remove this container when it is running. Wait a moment, friends. Now the container is now running. I want to remove the running container. For that, docker rn F stands for force. This stands for, F stands for force. It will forcibly stop the container. It will forcibly stop this container and it will be removed. See, this is, if we do not use F, what will happen? The container won't be removed, saying that the container is running. We want to remove the running containers, we have to use the force. Fine. These are very basics, friends. We will be advancing, but these are very important. Now, sometimes you want to clean up the entire workspace. You want to remove all the containers, whether they are running or not. For that, we have a command, docker rn forcibly remove the commands. Which containers we want to remove? $docker ps-aq. This command we will be giving. So what is it? This will give output of, this will give output. What output will be given? The list of all the containers will be given, right? What I will do is, I will just show you docker ps-aq. This command has given us the list of all container IDs. Now, I want to remove all of them with force. For that, we have to use docker rn $. We know this command already, to remove the running container forcibly. Now, I will use this here. This means it will remove all the containers. This command will give the list of, this command will give the list of all the IDs which are running, all the containers which are running, and they will be removed forcibly. Hit enter. Now, if I see docker ps-a, then you will be seeing that. And you don't need to use docker ps-a every time. You can use alias docker ss. How we will use the alias command, friends? I forgot that. I'm back. I think we have to give the quotations. This is not a big command to alias, but still let's go with that. Okay, I have
I think there should be no space between Docker and PS. No? We need to use combined.
no.
Alias Docker PS, and then
I didn't get you. Where there should be no space?
yeah,
No,
Docker and
space will be
PS,
there.
in between Docker and PS. No? It
In
should be
between
combined.
Docker. No. Space should be there. Space should be there, right? But yeah, that's not an issue at all. Let's spend some time here. Okay, this is what, right? Okay, I think we can use only one variable. We should not use this one as we said in aliasing.
Only one keyword is like.
Yeah, got it. Let's use this step. But why it is saying that this is not found? Yesterday also I have used this aliasing. Yes, space should have been there. Now what I will do is, but this is not a great aliasing because very simple. Docker P I have should have been there somewhat that. So here it will list out all the running average stopper containers if we don't have any containers. This aliasing is very important when we are using a very long command. Okay, we can use that. Fine. For example, we may be using that different Kubernetes clusters, and if you want to switch to one to another, we have to write a large command specifying the kubectl and the cluster name and the context and everything. So we will alias that with a simple keyword and we will be using. We will see that. So that is how aliasing will work. So what I will tell you is when you want to see the containers, use -a always. So that you will be seeing all the containers. Now all the containers were removed with that particular command. Which command? Docker rm -f the docker $docker ps that is also there in our books. Now what happened to the images? Let's check that. Docker image ls space ls it is true. Still images are there. Right? Images are files from which we will create the content. When we remove the containers, images will be still present, and these images will occupy the space in our machine. How to remove these images? For that, Docker RMI. RMI means remove image. What image? We have to specify the image ID or the image name. Image is nothing but Tommy and the tag, image tag. You will understand this tags later. Or if this image tag is latest, we don't need to specify it explicitly here. We can directly give the Tom. So that particular image has been deleted, and these are image layers which you will understand going forward. right? So now we have only one image because other image got deleted. We can remove this image as well. Now let's specify the tag. Now we don't have any image. We can use the Docker images as well. That will give the same output. So these are the basic commands which we will also specify in the pipelines. More commands will come. The build command, the tab command will be there, and push command, pull command, all those things we will be using in the pipelines. Now, till now, what we have seen, we have downloaded the image into our Docker host machine, and we ran a container from that. And we played with the container just to stop it, remove it, start it, restart it, those some basic operations container. But there is more to do. What is it? Nginx application has been running earlier, but how to access that? How to access that application? For that, we have to use port forwarding. This concept I will explain you. This is our Docker host machine, and let's suppose that we have created Tomcat container. And Tomcat will be running on which port? How do I know that? Go to the official documentation of the Tomcat, or go to our Docker hub.docker.com. And search for Tomcat here. Okay, this is the official this one and this one, anything we can use. Now, if we go here, see in the description, we will be getting the things about the Tomcat server. And the default port on which Tomcat will be running is 8080. The Tomcat will be running on port 8080. But how to access the Tomcat from outside of this Docker host machine? Every Docker container will be assigned with an internal IP address. How to check that? We will check it. If it is having only internal IP address, how the public will access your Tomcat server? For that, what we have to do is we have to map this port of the container to the port of the Docker host machine in which this container is running. That means we will open a port on the Docker host and we will map this container port to this particular Docker host port. And this Docker host port can be anything. It is up to you to choose it. Now let's choose 707. That means when the traffic comes to this port of the Docker host, then the traffic will be routed to this particular container. And this will be done using port mapping. How do we do that? Our aim is to access this container with the public IP address of the host along with the port. Let's suppose that this is some outside machine. And how to access this application? Because this container will be having only internal IP address, this internal IP address will be observable or reachable only within this Docker host machine. But how the public will access your application? For that, there should be a mechanism where we can export this to the outer world. That will be done by port mapping like this. And now we can access this with the public IP address of the Docker host machine along with the port of the machine. Port is 12%. So when the person is trying to hit this IP, the traffic will go to this machine and it will be routed to this container. We can have multiple containers, but we are mapping this port to this particular container. How to do that? Now let's run the Tomcat. There is no image. To create container, we should download the image first, but without pulling the image, I will try to run the container. Docker run. I want to run a container and we can name the container. How to name the container? For that, we have to use --name. We have to use the name flag. How do you want to name your container? You can give any name. Let's name it as my servlet. Right? So I want to run a container and I want to name that container as my servlet. When we want to run a container means we have to provide the image at the end. And I want to run this in detached mode. That means the logs will be pushed to the background or the container will be running in the background so that we can execute commands in the same terminal. -D stands for what? Detached mode, and it will come before the image or it will come after run. Anyway, you can place this. Now, how to perform this action? How to perform port mapping? For that, we will use another option called -P. P stands for port. And we have to mention the Docker host port. Okay, what's the port of the Docker host that we want to choose? 707. And we want to map this to which port of the container? It is 8080. This is the container port and this is the Docker host port. We are mapping the container port to the host port. Okay, and for that we use -P. Now let's hit enter. Now what is happening? The image is not there, but still we are trying to run the container. This run container by default will perform the full activity as well. So there is no need of using the Docker pull command when we want to run a container. Directly we can use Docker run. With that, what will happen? First, the Docker will try to search the image in the locally, in this local machine, the Docker host itself. If it is not found, If it is not found, then it will try to pull it from the Docker hub. Now, see the container is running. How the container is named? The container is named as my server, and it is up 38 seconds ago. Was created 38 seconds ago, and see the ports in ports. See what is happening. This is the host port, which is mapped to the container port. Now let's try to hit this from my local machine. This is a remote machine, and I'm trying to hit this from my local machine. What's the port we have to use? 7070. We have to use the port of this Docker host, not this. See, Tomcat is successfully accessible. I will ping this to you in the chat box. Please try to hit this and confirm whether you are able to access. Anybody in the world should be able to access my Tomcat server because I made it public by performing port mapping. Anybody is trying? Friends, are you sleeping? Are you there in the class? Yeah. People are giving reply saying that they're able to access. Now, happy that you are able to access. Now, if this is a virtual machine, this container, I should able to interact with its terminal. How to interact with its terminal? Now we are into host terminal. I want to interact with this particular Tomcat container. For that, we have a command Docker exec. Exec means executing or execute. I want to execute commands in the interactive mode. Okay, Docker execute IT. There is also another mode that we will talk later. I want to execute command interactively with what? With this container. And we have to specify the terminal of the container, bash terminal of the container. See what happened now. The prompt has been changed to the container from the host. Now we are in which container? We are in which terminal? We are in the Tomcat container terminal. See, now we can search, we can write any Linux command here, we can execute it. And I want to run, or I want to create a file in this particular container. Can I do that? Yes, why not? How to create a file? Let's use this touch command. Let's use echo. This is first file. And let's redirect it to file1.txt. See, this file1.txt is created and the content will be this. How to check this? All these things we are doing where? We are doing all these things in the content. Okay, that is fine. Still we are into container. This is nothing but what container ID is. Now we can go back to the other directory like we do in the general Linux. Now how to exit from this terminal? For that we have to use exit. Now the prompt changed from the container to the host. Now we are in the host machine. Docker ps. See the Tomcat container is run. I want to see the IP address of this particular container. I told you, right? Every container will be assigned with some internal IP address. How to check that? For that, we have to use Docker inspect. Docker inspect the container ID or the container name. Anything is fine. If you hit enter, see the details of the containers are shown here. The image from which it is created, the mount path and everything. So we will understand those things going forward. And this is the port and this is the host port. Now, if I go to the end, here, see, in the network section, it is attached to the bridge network. What it is, we will understand. And this is the IP address of this particular container. This is the internal IP address. Now let's try to access this Tomcat from the host itself. Curl. And which port we have to use now? We have to use the 8080 port because we are using the internal IP address. See, we are able to get the Tomcat page. Right? This is how we will perform the port map. And now let's try to run Nginx also. Docker run. Let's name it as my Nginx server. My Nginx, let's keep very small. After that, we have to provide what? We should not forget to provide the image name. Right? Now, I want to run this in detached mode. Now this time, this is Nginx. What's the general port of Nginx? I think it is port 80. Okay, to go to the documentation, we can get that. Otherwise, we can inspect the image also. I will show you that. Now this is 80. The Nginx will be running on port 80. But this time, I don't want to specify the host machine port. I don't want to choose it. I want to get some random port. For that, what we have to do is we have to use -P. So this is called as what? Automatic port mapping. And we should not give the port details here. So when it is given as -P, this Nginx container port will be mapped to some random port of this particular Docker host. Now let's hit enter. Because that image is not there locally, it will be downloaded by the Docker from the Docker hub, and from that image the container will be run. So Docker see that Nginx container is running, and we can see that the image will also be there. Okay, it is there. Now, in this we can see that some random port has been assigned. And the traffic will be forwarded to the 80 port of the container. Now we can access this Nginx through this port along with the public IP address. Now copy the public IP address of that machine, paste it here, and what's the port number? The port number is 32768. See, with this, we are able to access the Nginx. Now, I want to customize this particular thing. Docker ps Docker exec IT. I want to interact with the Nginx container. What is the Nginx container name? My Nginx. This is image. This is the container. So please observe that. So we will interact with the container, not with the image. And at the end, we have to provide the shell. Now we are into the Nginx. Now, this page will be there in the which location of this one? CD user share Nginx HTML. If I remember correctly, this is the part, and this is the content that is being served to us. So what I will do is I want to modify this content. Index.html. What to say? BA command not found. That means BA editor is not installed in this. That's fine. We will try to install it tomorrow, but let's override that existing file with our own content. Let's remove that file index.html. If I remove this, if I refresh this, what happened? See, 403 forbidden error getting. So we have to have that index.html file. Echo, my friends, this is contained. Now let's write this index.html file. Right? Now let's refresh this page. See, we got this thing. If I give this to you also, don't hesitate to hit this, please hit that. You will be able to see this content. Anybody in the world should be able to see this content if they are accessing it right. Can any one of you confirm that you are able to access? At least one person is right to confirm me. Waiting for some response from person. So what I'm telling here is yes, it's working. They are saying telling. So we now came to understand how to interact with the container terminal, how to modify the things inside the container, how to exit from the container to the Docker host machine. That's it for today, friends. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Thank you. And one more thing is, okay, you can ask me doubt, friends, if you have. I think nobody is having any.
I have one query as to the side. Is there any limitation on a VM? Like, let's suppose we have a 2-core CPU and 4 GB RAM. So how many number of containers or image we can run? Is there any limitation?
For example, if the memory is very small, 1 GB in that machine, if you want to run 20 containers, those 20 containers going to be running because the limited resources are there. Ultimately, these containers will be utilizing the underlying resources only, right?
Okay.
So based on your workload, you have to choose that instance.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And friends, I think link will be disabled tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So tomorrow is also class. Tomorrow also class is there. Okay. Tomorrow also class is there. And please try to complete your payment formalities as soon as possible. Thank you, friends. Yeah, so the payment details and all are given in the chat box by the admins in the beginning itself. You can go to them, and they will also follow you with the phone calls and mails. Thank you all. Bye. Thank you. Let's meet tomorrow.